Welcome to FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast series. Here we talk about all things franchising. What is it all about? Is it for you? How do you find the best one to own? And so much more. Now your host, Tim Parmeter.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning into the Franchising 101 podcast series. I am Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of FranCoach and your podcast host. Today is a pretty amazing day. It is Thursday. That's not particularly what makes it amazing, but it is three things today, all kind of aligned. The stars align perfectly. We have St. Patrick's Day, if you're into such a thing. We have the first day of March Madness, which how could you not be into that? And the start of spring training. All three on the same day, which probably means tomorrow will maybe be the highest percentage of people like calling in sick from work. Don't worry, if you get called in sick and they fire you, you're already listening to us anyway, so you probably don't like that job. We gotcha, right? We're going to talk about a couple of things today, really two words in the English language. The first word is the word challenges, and the second word is concerns. Those are going to sound kind of negative. We're going to talk about this and what that means. So as in a couple examples, do you currently have concerns over the picks that you made in your bracket challenge due to the concerns your national champion has in their region, like that, 11 seed you didn't really know anything about that's kicking their butt right now? What about baseball? Do you have concerns over your favorite baseball team due to the challenges that you perceive them to have in their rotation, their lineup, their bullpen? I'm a Cubs fan. I got news for you. There's challenges and concerns in all three of those right now as we start spring training. We're going to talk about those words, these two things, concerns and challenges, and we're going to learn about whether they really are as negative as they sound, or if there might be something lurking behind them that makes them not as scary. That's what we're going to talk about today. But first, let's give a little refresher course. FranCoach, who the heck are we? Well, FranCoach is a national search firm dedicated to working with individuals who are interested in owning a franchise. We are partnered with well over 500 of the top franchisors in the country, spanning nearly 60 industries. Our number one goal is to help clients find the absolute best franchise for them to own. And the goal of the Franchising 101 podcast series is to help educate people on all aspects of franchise ownership. So that is who we are. Let's dive into challenges and concerns here a little bit. These are two words that our clients will tend to use once we get to the point in our process where the discovery process, once we have gotten them connected to franchisors and they start that vetting process. Again, 6 to 8 weeks, there's a bunch of stuff that we're going to do. And usually early on, we're going to hear probably concerns more, but we'll hear challenges there. And again, depending on the context we use these words, they can really sound negative, but are they really? So this is what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to give you a couple examples here. So let's use concern. And so we're going to talk about this from a perspective of, we just introduced you to 3 franchises, right? And in almost every case, these are franchises that are in industries that you have little to no experience in. So it's kind of that surface level knowledge or perceptions, right? So really when we hear the word, and kind of give you an example, maybe somebody's going to say, I have a concern about the staffing required for franchise X. You just introduced me to franchise X. You said it might be a great fit, but I have a concern about the staffing piece of that. So the real question here is that a concern, right? A valid concern, a deal breaker type of concern, or is it a topic that we simply just don't have enough information on? At the beginning of the process, concerns are almost always that we don't have enough information, and we are basing our opinion and our concern on this topic based on something that's a predetermined bias or really overall just a lack of information. So how can we put this into to context with an actual example? So let's say, and I use this example, anytime we use examples, they are examples, not suggestions of a particular franchise or industry. But senior care. in the in-home senior care industry is as I'll always like to say, a booming, no pun intended, industry. We keep getting older, living longer, in more need of that care. So mom, dad, grandpa could stay in their home safer, longer, better quality of life. So again, huge need, never really going away anytime soon. But you will need a large staff of caregivers for this. So we make the presentation to one of our clients. Hey, we think this for all these other reasons, this could be a great potential match, right? Well, what's the response going to be? Geez, I'm really concerned about the staffing of the caregivers. I feel like this is going to be too hard, too much time, too much turnover, blah, 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 right? Okay, so let me just help you in that particular example. Of every single person that got presented this industry in the history of this industry has said, I have a concern over staffing. But when we first start out, do we really know if this is a concern, if this is a deal breaker? Again, clearly we don't have enough information. So a concern in this instance sounds negative. Oh, I have a concern about the staffing. But it's really nothing more than a topic we need more information on, thus the discovery process. That's why, again, this goes for 6 to 8 weeks, a dozen plus steps along the way, right? So now let's fast forward a little bit. Now we've had a couple calls with the franchisors. We've possibly even had a call or two with existing franchise owners. And during that time, we have heard about all the ways in which the franchisor is going to support you as the owner in the hiring, in the maintaining the caregivers, the ways in which you can compensate them and really take care of them, incentivize them, all of these things. You're going to learn all about that. You're going to learn how, as an owner in this industry, not only are you making a difference in the community with your clients and taking care of the family members, but you're also a pretty prominent employer in the community as well. Right? So once we kind of hear all of that and really get real life examples from the franchisor and then from the franchise owners, right, who have been there, done that, are doing that. Now we hear all of that. Really kind of one or two things are going to occur, right? At that point, we're going to hear that and go, we hear all that and we're going to kind of wrap our head around and actually become excited about it. The fact that we will be a prominent staffing industry, and kind of employer in the community. And now we know that original concern was just that we weren't educated on the topic, right? You understand the support from the franchisor, how you're building an internal office stuff, all of these things that you're like, okay, yeah, now I can see this, right? Maybe that's one. The other thing is we're going to hear all of that, and that concern is still there. Now we have the information. The concern really now becomes, that's a deal breaker. That's just not the right thing. That's too big of a staff. It's not the right kind of staff. Whatever. I don't like the ways in which I'm finding that particular staff in this example, any of those type of things. But once now we have information, right? We know all the ways we do it, or all the ways we get supported by the franchisors, the real life example from the franchise owners. And we're like, perfect. That's how the process is supposed to work. At the beginning, it's not a concern. Once we're informed and we've taken the steps and we've gathered the information, talked to the right people, at that point, really, it's not a concern. It's a deal breaker. Okay. That's what really kind of happens as we roll through this. And again, as we talk to people, there's really two goals for FranCoach as we start working with people. And number one is very simply, the FranCoach process is designed to educate our clients on all things about franchise ownership to help them determine if franchise ownership is the right path for them now. And again, let's be honest, majority of people, it's not, and that's okay. So these type of kind of quote concerns and the lack of information and being able to follow the process is going to help us understand if franchise ownership is the right path. With that example, we're going to get everything and we're going to get more excited about that particular brand, or we're going to cross something off the list. And now we can kind of focus on a couple, whatever the other two things are. Maybe we get all the way through and we had a concern on all three options we start with. they're deal breakers. And again, maybe that answers the question of if this is the right time. And maybe the answer is no. But we're now educated on the fact that we know this is not the right time, versus so many people, and maybe even some of you listening right now, like, yeah, it would be great to work for myself. I've always thought about it. I would love to have my own business, but I have concerns about, is it a concern or do you not have enough information? Okay, right? And my guess is it's the latter. We don't have enough information, which, by the way, is why we're here. But we'll come back to that. That's concerns. Now let's talk about challenges. The word concern, I think it's pretty easy to see how that can kind of sound a little bit more negative. Challenges maybe sounds a little bit less negative than concerns, but there definitely is that overtone to it. So how can this word challenges manifest it? How can it come up during the discovery process while we're vetting the franchises? So use kind of an example here. We're going to talk about a franchise. We're introducing you to Franchise X, and this time it is a more emerging franchise, perhaps kind of an either or. More emerging, which means it doesn't have as many units, or just they don't have anything in your market yet, right? Maybe there's hundreds of them around the country. I'm in Arizona half the time. We're going to pick Phoenix, so we're going to say the Phoenix market, for whatever reason, just doesn't have anybody in there for Franchise X. That doesn't mean anything bad. They may have 200 other owners around the country. They just haven't found that perfect match there yet. Okay, so now we're going to talk about being that first person for Franchise X into this metro area, and that can be initially viewed as, oh, that's a challenge to be the first one into that market. Right. So now we got to think about a couple of things with this. The overwhelming likelihood that our client in that situation is going to be a first-time franchise owner. So not only have they never been a franchise owner before, they've never been one where they've been the first one coming into a market. Right. So the lack of information and understanding on this is pretty darn high. Right. So we've got that. Right. So then. So again, but it's okay to say it's a challenge, right? But let's understand what that really means. So now we start the process. We start vetting the franchisors. We start having conversations with the franchisors. And we're going to understand what are the things that the franchisor has in place to help you get launched, whether it's a new market or an existing one, right? And I'll give you a little hint. There will be a lot that they will have in place for that. We're going to get a chance to talk to franchise owners. Some of whom will have been the first into their individual market, right? And again, I can't stress this enough. You are not going to be the first person in a franchise to be the first person for that brand to start in a market. They've already done that locally, right? Number one. And number two is every franchise ever has had this situation, right? So there are some pretty standard practices with franchising. They kind of know what the heck they're doing with this, right? But we talk to the franchise owners. We talk to the franchisors. We get an idea of what it was like for them when they launched in their market, right? And so now after we hear all of that, again, one of two things are going to happen. We're going to hear about what we perceived as challenges for being that first franchise owner into the market in Phoenix. And we're going to hear that and go, man, that's an awesome challenge. I am up for that challenge to be the first one here to build the brand in Phoenix Metro and really kind of blaze a trail for this particular franchise and for me as a franchise owner, right? Probably also means I want to really kind of expand out and have even more of the area because I am first to the market, right? Or we're going to hear that and we're going to go, I like something more. I want there to be a couple other franchise owners already in Phoenix who have taken on that challenge and kind of built the brand. And I want to come in and kind of piggyback off of them, right? Again, it's the education piece of this, right? So the initial, boy, that seems like a challenge to be the first one to market. Maybe it is. And maybe we realize we need neighbors for you, right? That's okay. But maybe, again, as we get farther along, you're going to hear that the challenge is like, yes, that is the challenge I want, right? And let's be honest, if you're not up for a little bit of a challenge, yeah, franchise ownership, let me help you. No, right? So as you think about those two words, and especially concerns, because we hear that a lot. I have a concern with X, and our team, we're going to be pretty blunt with you in that situation. It's not it's not really a concern. We need more information, right? When we gather the information, then we're going to know, is that something we're totally comfortable with now that we are knowledgeable about it, or was that a deal breaker, right? Same thing for challenges, right? What does that look like? What are we comfortable with individually as we get educated on all of this? And one recurring thing that we tell people all the time, there is no one size fits all answer in franchising. This is an incredibly personalized and individualized process. So part of the discovery process, kind of why we use that word a lot, right? This is very definitely a process. Part of that, the kind of journey we take people through is we're going to have a great understanding of 85% of what somebody really wants. That get out of bed test that we've referenced a lot. But there's going to be 10, 15, 20% of the things that we discuss. We're not going to know a 100% answer for this. So maybe we're not sure exactly how we want to look at staffing, or we're going to look at a couple different industries. Is it a newer franchise? Is it a more existing? Is it first to market, or do we have neighbors? Those are things most people have no idea what's best for them. So we're going to look at that from multiple different angles along the way to get educated. So those things that we think about initially, challenges, concerns, it just means we need more information. So hopefully that kind of helps a little bit. But as you're sitting there yourself and listening, standing, walking, running, driving, whatever the heck you're doing, you have found the Franchising 101 podcast, which means you have at least some interest, curiosity, wondered about, dreamt of, thought of having a business of yourself, working for yourself. But somewhere in there, there's been a concern, right? Of, oh my gosh, that's going to be challenging, right? I have concerns about this, and this. All you are right now, you're sitting there in that same spot. You don't have enough information to know if this is the right time for you. That's why we're here, folks, is again, that Franchising 101 podcast that you're listening to right now. Our team at FranCoach, our number one goal is to help you get educated enough on franchise ownership to determine if this is the path for you right now. You've thought about it. You've been curious. You're listening to the dang podcast, whatever. We're at 15 minutes in, man. I challenge you to put your concerns aside and get educated on them. Reach out to us. FranCoach.net is our main website. Franchising 101 podcast is our podcast site. There's probably a little link in your podcast window. You can even click it to schedule a call with us. There's never, ever any fee for our service. We promise not to make fun of how quickly your Final Four teams are already out or how bad your baseball team's going to be this year. Probably not going to do it. I don't want to promise that, right? But we're probably not going to do it. But we're going to be in this again. I'm a Cubs fan, folks, right? And I pick my picks are basically on which they have no basis of basketball whatsoever, which is crazy because I used to play, and I'm pretty sure my 8-year-old bracket's better than mine. We're not going to make fun of you, even though we're going to have concerns over those things. Reach out to us now. Get that first call schedules and help learn more. Let's cross off the concerns. Let's get you educated to find out if this is the right time for you. If so, we will work together till we find that perfect match for you. That's what we're here for. So as always, thanks for tuning in. We want to hear from you soon so we can kind of help you work through those concerns and the challenges about franchise ownership and maybe get to the point where you don't have to worry about calling in when there's St. Patty's Day, spring training, and March Madness all on the same stinking day. Kick back tomorrow, right? That's what I'm going to do. So enjoy. Thanks so much. We hope to hear from you soon. Not tomorrow. I'm going to be busy. Thanks so much. But we hope to hear from you soon. So thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast, where our ultimate goal is to help educate you on all things franchising so you can create your better tomorrow.